Okay, well, we're still here on the morning show. And I think it's time now to be joined by our guest. One of the national dailies today published an interview it had with Professor Zachary Anger Gundun of Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Professor Gundun said that, and I quote, "The Fulani of the whole world is now at war with Nigeria." And that begins to paint a picture of how much Nigeria has degenerated into mindless violence, which, according to published reports, has claimed more than 25,000 lives, wow, in the past 4 years. Whether or not to have police at the state level as a solution is an ongoing debate which has polarized the nation. And now even state governors themselves cannot find an agreement on that. For more discussion on this, we'll now be joined by Dickson Osajie. But before then, actually, Tundu, I wanted to just have a little bit of a conversation with you because I know every week we've been having this conversation about violence in the land, insecurity, kidnapping. I mean, almost to the point that every time you turn on social media, there's someone saying, "Please help me retweet because we need to find this person."
Yes.
This increasing insecurity, I know we have an expert coming, but when we start to put these things in numbers and we see numbers like 25,000.
It's horrific. And it's frightening because these things are happening all across the board. Literally nobody is safe at this point. And there are all kinds of theories. Some people are positing that it's the poor, lashing out in anger against the rich, but that is simply not true. The facts don't support that because the whole society is victimized by this violence. Poor people are being murdered and kidnapped. Rich people are being murdered and kidnapped. Nobody's exempted from it. I don't think it's a rich-poor issue. There's also been an argument that it's a tribal issue, like you said in the introduction just now, that it's Fulanis at work. I'm sure we'll discuss that more with our security expert coming on the show.
And one of our security experts has also talked a lot about the porous borders across Nigeria.
Yes.
I mean, we had him on about a month or two ago, talking about how these borders, because there's nothing happening at the border, there's no border checks, that actually people are coming in and out, actually sometimes committing crimes. People have also once again speculated that that's not true, that it's inside. So it'll be really interesting.
What are the facts? And recall when we've had former President Goodluck Jonathan, who convened this national conference. And an idea was mooted at the time that we should have a border force. I think now they need to revisit that idea. They should actually police our borders. The border force was supposed to be under the Ministry of Defense. That was agreed. And then all these plans just were jettisoned in 2015 when a new government took over. I think we really need to revisit some of these measures.
So I think we're now joined by our expert, Dickson Osajie, an international certified security expert criminologist and the National President Association of Disaster Managers Without Borders. He is also the Managing Director and Executive and CEO of Debris Protection Services. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Nice being here. How are you?
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Good to see you.
As you heard in our introduction, I mean, there's now a report that says 25,000 people have been killed at the hands of, be it kidnappers, insurgents, bandits, herdsmen. I mean, whatever you call it. No one in Nigeria feels safe today. There's growing insecurity. There are conversations around how do we police that. First, I just want you to paint a picture as a security expert. If you were to sort of look at a rating for Nigeria's insecurity today on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most insecure, where would you rate that as an expert?
Well, I will rate that as number 4 because we have international applications to ratings. It's quite regrettable that Nigeria is the 3rd most terrorist-affected nation in the world.
3rd?
Yeah, third, number 3, after
We've
Iraq.
risen from 4, yeah.
After Iraq, Afghanistan, Nigeria is number 3. And that is from the Global Terrorism Index. Looking at the Global Peace Index as well, of 163 countries in the planet, Nigeria is 148th most peaceful country. You can see we are doing so well negatively. And when you look at the most dangerous country in the world as well, from the Global Peace Index, Nigeria is the 16th most dangerous country in the world. Now, how do we arrive at this stage? It's because our leaders are not you know, weighing in on the ratings. You know, sometimes when we're in primary school and secondary school, when we come third, fourth, fifth, our parents will bring us home and sit us down and tell us we have to do more better. So it's from your own report card that you do more better, but we pay deaf ears to our report card, and that is really detrimental to our survival.
But are they really? Because on Friday, there was a meeting held with the presidents and state governors to address this issue, and they're mooting the idea of state police. Now, at that meeting, they could not achieve a consensus. Some states say they can't afford it, and there's other reports at the moment floating around that only 10 states in Nigeria are economically viable, 17 of them are bankrupt, more of them will become bankrupt when they start to implement the minimum wage. How will they be able to afford state police? Apart from the financial aspect, there are other cons being discussed. So what do you think? Do you think that that is the answer, state policing?
Well, when we talk about state policing, the centralized policing system must have done so well. Looking at state policing, there are historical foundations to that. American, for example, before they applied their own state policing, the central police system took over 200 years, going to Britain and other developed countries in the world. Now, we are running to go into state policing without addressing the central policing system. Now, looking at the central policing system, in which orders come all the way from Abuja. Now, when these orders come all the way from Abuja, disseminated to various states, the CPs take these orders. Now, the Constitution is very clear. Section 215, subsection 4 of the 1999 Constitutions has already given the state commissioners of police that powers not to even respect the state governors. Because that section says that whatever order you get from the state government or from the state governor, you need to relay it back to Abuja for the presidency to approve it. So that alone is a roadblock on the success of Nigerian policing. And that is why we are having crimes and incidents here and there. Because if anything transpired, if a state governor wants to react, the commissioner of police, you can see what happened in Port Harcourt during the time of Frank Uba, disobeying the state governor. You can even see what's happening in Port Harcourt right now again. The GOC also disobeying the state governor. So there are lots of disobedience to particular orders when it comes to federal policing. For me, without much to say, I think we should come back to state policing as well, because the central policing system never paid off. After the consensus meeting some few days back, they got back to the president. I think that was a report from the human rights from presidential panel that has activated that panel. Now, there's an issue with this state policing, because we need to know where we are going to. We need to divide it. We need to arrange it. We need to tell the country where we're going. Now, looking at central policing, for example, we have been suffering from yes sir syndrome. If anything transpired in Lagos State now and you are trying to take it up with the police, a signal will come from Abuja and say order from above. If you are trying to, the state police commissioner is trying to react, a signal will come from Abuja, presidential order from above. How do we curtail this? When we come back to state policing, it's going to be a good one, but we also have to remember that state governors will also misuse that opportunity. Now, in 1990...
Please expand on how you think state governors can misuse the opportunity.
Oh, very good, because these guys will now report to the state governor. Because it is now, the state governor cannot give any commissioner of police order that the commissioner of police will carry out immediately. You have to seek permission from his boss in Abuja, and that is going to cause a kind of delay measures. Because one of the reasons why crime has been flourishing in this country is because we are not reacting to it proactively with speed and momentum. So if we have that state policing as well, it's going to be a good development. All about the negative effects. And you see, and we need to also understand one point, that like in 1999, 2001, 2002, or 2003, during the time of Bakassi boys, you know, they came in as a form of state policing, but it's not a kind of licensed state policing. They were vigilantes. You saw the mayhem that they caused. Now go to Maiduguri, for example, the ECOMOG force, which now metamorphosed into the current Boko Haram, were once used by the state government to police the states. Are you with me? You see, a lot of things like this takes place in this country. But if we have to go into state policing, there need to be in fact, there need to be a comprehensive analysis of what we are, where we're coming from, where we are, and where we're going. If we don't analyze the state police properly, it's going to be mismanaged.
So there's a lot of pros and cons about state policing and don't state policing. Obviously, funding is a huge part of that. If we were to, I mean, and also, too, I wanted to get a sense. I thought that actually there would be more, that the governors would embrace this more, because people keep on saying that it will embolden them, it will empower them. Why do you think that the governors actually have not been jumped on this bandwagon as enthusiastically as people predicted.
Anyway, you know, sometimes when an incident transpired or something come on you, you might not be able to react immediately. You have to go back home, analyze, and check the positive aspect of it and the negative aspect of it. So some of them, this information come to them as a shock. Some of them are ready to go. Why some?
It shouldn't be a shock. I mean, we've been talking about this, state policing for a very long time. Some of the governors actually campaigned. It was part of their campaign.
Yeah, about 9 to 10 governors.
Yes.
Most of them campaigned.
Yes.
Now, most people that are not ready to consent to that is that they are crying that they will not have the fund. And when you check very well, any state that tells you it doesn't have the fund, check the peace rate of that state. I think it's a peaceful state. So if, for example, I'm the governor of Gongola State and there is a high state of insecurity, people are dying every day, whatever the cost, I will push for it. Because we must remember that human lives are irreplaceable. When we know that human lives are irreplaceable, then whatever the cost that will be put in place to put insecurity measures in place is worth it. Because if security is expensive, they should try danger. If they think it's expensive, let them try danger.
Well, that's the state we're in, and it is expensive.
Dickson, you raised a point. You mentioned the Bakassi boys. So I want you to actually distinguish state policing from community policing, because these terms have been mentioned quite a bit. Are they interchangeable, or is there actually a difference?
They're interchangeable. The essence of state policing is to have a one-on-one interaction with the citizens. You see, quite regrettable that the disadvantage of centralized policing is that you don't have that one-on-one relationship with the citizen. Now, there's a very good, effective state policing that we have been enjoying in Lagos, which most of us are not aware about. That is the neighborhood watch. Now, what these guys do is that they go with their bicycle, patrol from one premises to another, from one street to another. They are trying to see possible situation whereby they can avert crime in progress, because the sole objective of state policing is to avert crime in progress, avert possible crime, and also take preeminent actions. So the difference is just an interchange. You can say community policing or state policing. But state policing is having an effective relationship with the citizen. You know your citizen, you know the police. But it's quite incredible, some of us in our environment, we don't even know our DPO. We don't even know our crime officer. We don't even know a police officer in the station. Until crime strike, before we can visit the police station. But this state policing will come on board. They will move from street to street. They will even come and ask you and I, is there any problem? What's happening? Are you okay? Are you good? Is there anything you want us to know? Is there any information you want to give us? So state policing, with the high state of insecurity here in Nigeria, I think it's going to be a welcome development, because the rate in which people are dying in this state is quite regrettable. And I think the government also should look at a way whereby they should establish an institution. You understand? Now, this institution should be an institution whereby people who are in power should be held accountable. You see, Nigeria is a country whereby somebody will come and govern a state as a commissioner of police or inspector general of police. At the end of his tenure, there's no accountability. When we start having putting our leaders into accountability, things will begin to take shape. If you lose one or two men in the front line, you need to come back to an agency and tell them what went wrong. Why did you lose these men? Were there no arms and ammunition for you? Were you not prepared? Were you not proactive enough? Because human lives in Nigeria doesn't matter. People are dying every day like chicken. In fact, the people even prefer the survival of animals, cows, goats, than human beings. And it's a quite regrettable situation.
One of the things that has happened since the insecurity issue in Nigeria is obviously the withdrawal of $1 billion from the XX crude account. As a security expert in looking at how that money has been spent, how do you think the security agencies have done with actually spending this money and deploying security agents across the country?
Yeah, you see, I earlier told you about accountability. When it comes to monetary values, there should be a strict accountability to monetary values, because in this part of the world, we have, during the former regime, where we heard that some billions of dollars were making waves in exchange of Nigerian lives. And most people just feel that they are going to live till eternity. You know, until we begin to remember and think that we'll also die one day, we will not put things right, because most of our leaders just think they will live till eternity. And thank God, the maximum life is 90, 100 years if God has not reduced the lifespan of man. If peradventure is 500 years, who is going to stay in this situation for 500 years? The spirit of suicide will be on the high rise. So that $1 billion that was withdrew from the SS Credit accounts, there should be an account for that. Because
they have said that there will be an account, but to date, what do you think? I mean, what do you think in your assessment when you look at the type of equipment that has been deployed, the type of air fight jets that have been deployed? These are where citizens, there is conflict, but I mean, the authorities have said that they will eventually.
You see, when we talk about terrorism, for example, there are two ways to counter insurgencies. We are only using military might. Military might will never defeat terrorism till end of time. There is nowhere in the world military might has defeated terrorism. Now we have what we call the kinetic approach and the non-kinetic approach. The kinetic approach is the military might. The non-kinetic approach is the aid might, the organizational might. What you guys are doing is non-kinetic approach. You are sensitizing the public. Each time we come on air like this, we are applying non-kinetic approach so that people will also listen and know the detriments to crime. Now, we have to go into non-kinetic might so that we'll be able to talk to these people, sensitize these guys. The church needs to come on board. The mosque needs to come on board. And NGOs needs to come on board. Now, looking at that, for example, let's keep this money, for example, aside. The psychological mindset of our men is not well balanced because there's what we call territorial behavior. If you don't exhibit territorial behavior, you will not excel. If you don't have good relationship with the citizens, you will not excel. It's quite regrettable. Look, let me take, for example, the front line, for example, the Boko Haram war. Our soldiers are dying every day. Is it that government are not spending? Government are spending billions of naira every social issue. Now, we have what we call conflict entrepreneurs. Most of these guys feed on conflict. They don't want this war to go.
Conflict entrepreneurs.
Yeah, conflict entrepreneurs. They are called conflict entrepreneurs. They feed on conflicts. They survive on conflict. They live on conflict. If conflict dies, they will go hungry. So they believe the exchange for human blood to survive. Now, when you go to most of our barracks now in Lagos here or in Nigeria here, you will observe that we have a lot of widows. And it's so painful. I personally have lost hundreds of friends, I can name, hundreds of friends that died in action during this Boko Haram uproar. When these guys died in action, what happens to the wife? What happens to the children? That's where the psychological warfare comes to play. Because the man in the front line, when he observed that his own colleague, that both of them were advancing to contact the enemy, and unlucky for his friend, died in action, back home, his wife and children are abandoned by the government, which is really happening. I don't know what's really, what are the policy in place, but I think our government should also look at insurance coverage for all our security agencies. They should also look at taking care of the fallen heroes' children and the wives. There should be a governmental organization that will take care of these guys. Because if we don't take care of these fallen heroes' family, the guys in the front line always get information. They know what's happening to the wife of his friend. He knows what is happening to the wife of his late colleague. He knows what's happening to the children. The children are out of school. So when we address those psychological aspects and motivate these our soldiers, it's regrettable that somebody who put his life on the line is being paid about 1,500 naira a day. That is to say that in a month, an extra allowance given to a soldier engaging the enemy is 45,000 naira. When you bring that 45,000 naira to a day, that means he's being paid about 1,500 naira. When you bring it to an hour, that means he's being paid about 41 naira. Okay, this is the scenario. If enemy attack comes now, and these soldiers have to attack this enemy for 1, 2, 3 hours, and they succeeded, and some died in action. When you multiply 41 naira by 3 hours, it gives you 123 naira. So 3 hours fighting is 123 naira that cannot even get you a team meal. Are you with me? So we need to address these things. We need to start paying them in dollars. We need to motivate these guys. We don't just look them as animals. They are human beings. They have blood in their vein. What differs them from us is because they are carrying the arms and ammunition to engage the enemy. So government should try to address this psychological aspect of our security agencies. Also, some people in power must be held accountable. Is the funds released by government getting to the right sources? Are these soldiers getting this fund? Are they eating well? Sometimes when you go to the front line, these guys are not eating well. Do you understand? Most people that are shot in action, what do you compensate them with? My younger brother, during the capture, the Chibok incident, my immediate younger brother, same father, same mother, immediately they captured those ladies. They were the people that went for reinforcement in Chibok. Now, on getting to Chibok, they exhumed some dead soldiers and they take it to the base. While he was relaxing to take his bath, he called his junior colleague, get me water, let me bath, around 3-4 p.m., not knowing that Boko Haram already advanced to kill them again, to attack them again. So he had a voice say, you want to bath in a broad daylight? Are you okay? He said he just had a voice. And he decided to put on his boots and his shirt. While he was lacing his boots, a bullet passed through his head. Pia, pia. When he opened his eyes, he discovered that about 80 Boko Haram are already advancing to capture them. Wow. So he was shot in that, what's it called, attack. But I was so grateful that the bullet passed through his head and went to his leg, because he was only pleading his last hope, blood of Jesus, I will not die today. I will not die today. That was his plea. Now, on that gunshot he received, he was treated in Maiduguri. When I saw the picture of this treatment, I'm giving you a practical scenario of my own family. When I saw the picture of this guy, the legs started defecating, and I felt so bad. I have to fly him to Lagos with my own personal money, and I treated him here in Lagos with my personal money. And when he got well, he went back to the front line. Now, what measures are the government putting in place for people who sustain gunshots? Do they get gunshot? Yes, they are trying their best in treating these guys, but there should be a compensation. Anyone who is shot in action shouldn't be paid less than 5 million naira, because his life would have been eradicated if not for luck. So our government, we need to sit down very well.
How is your brother
Go
today?
back. Oh, he's doing fine. He's doing fine. And secondly, thank you for asking that question. When he went back, he spent extra 3 years again. He was shot in 2014, and he was just released last year, March. Now, the lifespan of a soldier in the front line shouldn't exceed more than 9 months. When it exceeds more than 9 months, his mental well-being, his physical well-being, his confidence will begin to depreciate. But here in our own country, we will put a soldier 4 years in the front line. And within that 4 years, you didn't change that soldier, you didn't change his battalion or his unit, and you think he will still maintain such morale, because when you activate your morale, there is a level in which that morale will get to, and it will start to drop down. So they need to address these deployment factors. If they start addressing the deployment factors, address the psychological factors, pay them well, motivate them well, Boko Haram will be history.
Thank you for sharing that very personal story. Thank you so much, because you really just perfectly illustrated the issue. Why are we treating the only people standing between us and Boko Haram in this fashion? Because if not for the soldiers on the front lines, Boko Haram will be in Lagos.
That's our last hope of defense.
That's literally it.
You're very correct. It's our last hope of defense.
Yes.
Because we also need to understand that the military is our last hope of defense. And it's regrettable that we mismanage the military. In every given situation, you call up the military. You don't bring out your best card when you are playing a game. You need to reserve your, like those of us that play card, we just keep the pick 3, pick 2 at the last stage. You know, you keep piling it. Those are your defense and your weaponry. Now, if we need to succeed as well, I think our military needs to come back to the drawing board. They need to relax. They need to plan, because they are not relaxed. They are just engaging in anything that happened. Operation Python dance, Operation Monica dance, Operation Bini dance, different kind of dance. That is not what we need in this country. We don't need those dancing. We need proactive measures. We need strategies. Draw out your military plan. Now, I've not seen any military plan since 2019, since this 2019. What are your military plan? How do you want to execute these actions? Tell Nigerians how you are about to go. How do you intend to go and eliminate these guys? Because the truth is that there are two mindsets in the front line. We have the enemy mindset and the friendly mindset. The enemy mindset is that they are fighting to die. That is their mindset. That is their ideology. They are fighting to die. Because it can take the military, be honest, 1 month, 2 months to wipe out terrorism. What about the ideology? Ideology could take eternity to be erased. So those guys, they are fighting to die. And when they die, they want to go and meet 21,000 virgins that is not found in this planet Earth. They will find them in heaven. And the soldiers' angle, they are fighting to reunite with their family. I have a beautiful wife at home. I have beautiful kids at home. My mindset is divided.
Different motivation.
Oh, so I need to fight and go back home.
We're still here with our security expert, Dickson Osajie. Once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing such a personal story and experience with us. One of the things that President Buhari said in his first term was that he will defeat Boko Haram. He also promised to return all the Chibok girls. The Chibok girls have not been returned. Boko Haram has not been defeated. However, there's a lot of discussion around, has Boko Haram been defeated or not been defeated? Once again, as a security expert, where do we stand on Boko Haram?
We stand in the point of danger. That's where we stand, because we have what we call the negative piece, and there's what we call the positive piece. Whatever the case may be, and whatever all the energy applications, weaponry applied, that region has already been messed up. If peradventure peace returns to that region, it's going to be classified as negative peace, you know. And we here, we're enjoying positive peace. So Boko Haram must not be defeated. The government needs to tell us the truth. They have not been defeated. And the spirit of attack to our soldiers every day is on the high rise. And I begin to wonder what is happening in the front line. What are they doing in the front line? Because, like, personally, I was once a soldier. I joined the military 22 years ago. And my father also was a soldier. My elder brother was a soldier. So in our family, same father, same mother, we have 4 soldiers. That means we are supposed to be shareholders in the Nigerian army.
Definitely a military family.
Yeah. So I left the military 17 years ago, voluntarily, because my father served 37 years. When my father was retired after 37 years, then I was in the Bakassi War. My mother came to visit me and told me that my father has resigned. So they sent me a signal from the front line. I came to the base. I met my mom, and she started telling me how much my father was paid. My father was paid 1,150,000 naira for serving this country for 37 years. And when I assessed that amount of money that my father was paid, I knew my future is in danger. I'm not saying this to demotivate anybody. You know, when we talk about motivation, we should see it as, when we talk about a pay rise and motivations, we should see it as a positive aspect in growing our national security. You know, sometimes when you want to talk about motivations, people will say you are undermining national security. No, you're not undermining national security. You are motivating. Yeah, it's an important investment. Now, as a little boy, I was barely 23 years old, yeah, when I resigned from the army. I was barely 23 years old. And I look at it, I say, I can't come and spend 37 years in this country and earn that money. What has changed? The difference that has changed is not up to 100 or 200%. Till now, when somebody who sat at 7 years, however, he retired as a warrant officer, and I look at that amount of money, he couldn't get him a house. As I'm talking to you, my father stays in a rented apartment. After laying his life for this country, you know, I need to start from home.
That's important.
He fought the Civil War. They were the first set of Nigerian troops that fought the Sierra Leone War, and he has been to various missions, and he has trained a lot of soldiers. He's trained me as a soldier because he was in the training institution. So my father trained me, and when I analyzed how much he was paid, I was demoralized within me. Immediately my mother left, I told her, Mama, I'm going to leave this job. And I actually voluntarily resigned from the army. I wanted to have left. Somebody advised me that tomorrow you might be a star. Put in voluntary so that you don't be called a deserter. So today I'm proud to call myself as an ex-military man. The situation of the military is very good. There's discipline in the force. There is organization in the force. But we need to address motivations. We need
compensation.
Yeah, and compensation. You can't serve this country for 37 years and you're homeless. If you serve this country for 37 years, that means you've given 40 to 45% of your lifespan to the government. And at that period of time, you put your life at risk for 37 years because every day of a soldier is a risk. So we need to address such situation. Now, going back to Boko Haram, if they have been defeated or not, I think they have not been defeated. And we are seeing videos every year and there. Last week, I saw a video from one of my classmates. Sent me the video how they line up some soldiers and blow up just cause. They are applying the Boko Haram, they are applying the ISIS system of execution. You know, immediately they pay allegiance to ISWAP, their methodology changes. They change their method of operations.
So you're saying Boko Haram has more like transitioned into IS?
Yeah, they've paid allegiance in 2015. They have already paid allegiance.
So there's really no more Boko Haram, it's not IS?
No, they're still Boko Haram, but they've played allegiance. So you call them ISWAP, Islamic State of West African Province. Now, what these guys do, during the time of Boko Haram, you know what Boko Haram do? They will come to the community and kill everybody. They don't care who you are. They will execute everybody. Now, when ISWAP came on board, when they play allegiance, the faction that play allegiance, when they go to a community, they want to seek the community empathy. They want to embrace this community. They tell these community people that, hey, you are more safer with us than the military. You can see how we are dealing with them. If any of you messed up here, we're going to get you out here. So those guys, their system of operation changes. Their system of execution changes as well. Now, if they want to kill some soldiers after capturing them, they will line them up and blow up their heads. And I begin to wonder, like the military attack, what went wrong? I analyze it. I say, this military attack, for instance, some people heads needs to roll. You know, when we talk of attack, my dear, attack is not something that is a form of disappearance. It takes a level of movement. For example, now if I'm coming from this door and I'm coming to meet you, and you see some harmful object in me, you just take the necessary cover that will avert that danger, isn't it? Now, what baffles me most, Nigerian Army was one of the finest grand soldiers in the world, They did so well in Liberia. They did so well in Sierra Leone. They've been doing so well. How comes when we got back home, we are not doing so well? The number of soldiers that died in action from 2019 dates, when you want to go to the Nigerian army, Nigerian side, I don't think they lost such kind of number. Imagine you kill a colonel, kill a lieutenant colonel, even kill a major general, even assassinate a general. The state of security is really, really worrisome because
even within the military.
Even the military, it's really worrisome, and that is why I was somewhere yesterday, and people were praying that peace should be in Nigeria. The prayer that has been uttered for this country has long been answered. It has long been answered, long time ago. You see, most of us as Christians, we believe that faith without work is dead. Now, the faith application of prayers for the survival of this country is already in process, it's working. But what is not working in this country is operations, it's applications. We're not getting this right. We need to get it right. And government, to be very honest, the federal government has been spending a lot of billions. They've been spending a lot of money. Where is this money going to? Where is the money going to? That is the question. Where is it going to? And the last time I heard that some people diverted our phone, what's it called? Corruption eating us up and every other thing, and you see people making jest of Nigeria and every other thing. We need to address corruption properly. And when addressing corruption, like for me, I was telling a friend of mine, say before you address any issue, start from home. Start from home. When I left the army, I became the chief security officer of a multinational company here in Lagos for about 8-9 years before I started up my own security company. And I went on patrol one day. I met my brother. We're from the same hometown in Edo State. He was smoking on duty in a hotel. He went to the paint floor. And if that fire in that cigarette activates to the nearest equipment there, the hotel will be in flames. At midnight, 2 a.m., I will never forget, I dismissed him on the spot. Some people will say, it's your brother. People started calling me from home, village, allowing you to dismiss. I say, yes. What am I doing? I'm setting in deterrence measures because before you fight corruption, start from home. Corruption is not being. You can't fight corruption from one angle and not another angle. Purge yourself from corruption. Then we'll have a better state. So
there needs to be a probe of the military because of the corruption, well, allegations of corruption in the military.
In the military, I would suggest to the federal government, they should set up an agency that will consistently probe the funds that have been allocated to the purchase of equipment, payment of soldiers, welfare. Because if you leave everything within the military, like those days when we were in the army, you can't talk.
But then what is the job of the National Assembly, the committees? Is that not their job to oversee
military spending?
Yes.
We have a lot of committees. You know, you see, it's one thing you have committees, another thing you have the effectiveness. Are they efficient? Are they effective? Because it's not all about setting this committee. You need to set in policies and procedures in place that will go. You see, there are some countries in this world that the system works for them, not the man. The system is already in place. If you do this, this is what you get. If you do this, this is what you get. If you do this, this is what you get. So if we have those committees in the National Assembly, then they should wake up. They should wake up. They need to wake up. And when we begin to hold our military leaders, our leaders responsible, things will begin to take shape.
So there were a lot of calls for the president to sack the service chiefs. Where do you stand on that?
They are long overdue to be sacked. You can't keep a service chief for 4 years. What are you going to offer? You see, when you stay in a particular place for a longer period of time, your mindset will begin to depreciate. You see, you'll be relaxed. Are you with me? Are they having the recent trend? Are they going for more courses that will improve the security of this country? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? That should be enough for a security chief to serve this country and go. And you see, in our part of this country is that when things go wrong, people don't resign. What happened in the bomb blast, is it in Philippines? The recent bomb blast that took place in, I don't know, the country that it takes place.
Indonesia.
Is it Indonesia?
The Easter bomb blast. Yeah, no, they resigned.
Yeah.
Is it
the Sri Lanka one?
Is it Sri Lanka?
The Sri Lanka.
Easter bomb.
Yeah, no, the Easter bomb.
That was the Easter bomb. The police chief resigned. Yes. If such thing happen in Nigeria, the police chiefs will come on air and say, we hereby condemn this act that has taken. What are you condemning? We should stop condemning. Each time I go on air and I see people, what are you condemning? You don't condemn verbally. You condemn with pen and paper. You condemn with action. You condemn with your policies and procedures. You understand? The police chief resigned. Why did he resign? Because human life matters to him. Human life matters to him. He sees human first. Until we begin to see human first, place human first, before any other thing, before our greed, before our love for money, before appointment. Because all these things will wipe away because they are what we call replaceable items. But the human lives are irreplaceable. If you are gone, you're gone.
So, I mean, one of the things that we've done now is we've militarized our security. So most of the insecurity in Nigeria is actually, the armed forces are on the front line of that. How can the police force be strengthened and empowered to actually take up these issues?
You see, that was where we got it wrong initially. The police has their role of responsibility, and the military also have their area of responsibility. When this incident happened initially, I think the military were quickly drafted to that action. And now, as it is, the military is our last hope of defense. We don't have any other person we are going to call. And that is why before you react to any conflict issues, you need to send in the small man. Before you send in the bigger man, before you send in the biggest man. What we need to do is that we need to train our police so that they could be able to be first responders to criminal acts. Because there was sometime last year I saw on TV where some police people abandoned their arms and ammunition.
We're going to go on a break. When we come back, I really want to talk this issue about first responders.
All right.
Oh. All right. Well, Dickson, it looks like we're going to have you back another time. Thank you so much for being here today.
God bless you.
Thank you.